Shalom, welcome to the Jewish Task Force, JTF. My name is Chaim Ben Pesach. We often say that the current leaders of the Israeli political establishment, the Israeli government, the Israeli Supreme Court, the police force, the generals in the Israeli army, are part of an Israeli Bolshevik establishment that literally want to destroy the Jewish state, and some people find that hard to believe. Well, here's another example. The education minister of Israel, Yuli Tamir, announced that the Israeli education system is now going to recognize HaNakba. What is Nakba? Nakba means Holocaust in Arabic. Holocaust or disaster in Arabic. And the Arabs refer to the creation of the state of Israel, the very existence of a Jewish state, as Nakba, Holocaust for the Arabs. They say that it was like a Holocaust, a catastrophe, when the state of Israel came into existence. And they mourn the fact that the Jews in the 1948 War of Independence survived. They wanted to exterminate the Jewish people. In 1948, 3 years after 6 million Jews, Hashem Yikom Damam, may God avenge their blood, were exterminated during the Nazi Holocaust. Just 3 years after that, all of the Arab leaders, all of the Arab nations, all of the Arab spokesmen were saying in English at the United Nations that they intended to push the Jews into the sea, finish Hitler's job, and perpetrate yet another Holocaust against the Jewish people. They promised to wipe out every single Jew in the land of Israel. They promised to exterminate the entire Jewish people. And they went to war and attacked the newly created state of Israel in 1948 with that pledge, openly saying so before the whole world. They made the same pledge, by the way, before the 1967 Six-Day War. And Israel, with the miraculous intervention of God in fulfillment of biblical prophecy, Israel outnumbered 100-1, 3 years after the Holocaust, with very few weapons, with no support from the world. The United States didn't give Israel one bullet or one penny in 1948. Israel, miraculously, incredibly, the sons and daughters and the people who survived the Nazi death camps in the state of Israel, outnumbered 100-1, with blazing guns and iron fists, redeemed the land of their forefathers and beat back 7 invading Arab Muslim Nazi armies. It was a miracle of biblical proportions. 100-1 they were outnumbered, just as it says in the Bible. And 10 of ye shall chase 1,000 of them, and 100 of ye shall put 10,000 of them to flight. Biblical prophecy was fulfilled. And the Jews returned to their land after 2,000 years of exile. The desolate city shall become habitable again, it says. And God says he will fish the Jews out of the 4 corners of the earth and return them to their homeland. And that's exactly what happened in our own day. Anyone who doesn't believe has to be blind. And the Arab Muslim Nazis refer to Israel's survival, to the fact that the Jews survived, to the fact that the Arabs were unable to perpetrate the Holocaust that they promised to commit against the Jews. The Arabs call that Nakba, catastrophe, or Holocaust. Catastrophe or Holocaust for the Arabs. In other words, the very existence of a Jewish state, the very existence of Israel, the very presence of Jews in the Middle East is called Nakba, is called catastrophe or Holocaust for the Arab Muslim Nazis. So obviously the term Nakba and the way they celebrate it, and they do celebrate it, by the way, they actually have a day during the year when they celebrate, when they mourn the fact that the Jews survived and mourn the fact that they weren't able to exterminate Israel, and they call that Yom HaNakba, they call that the day of the catastrophe. And that's obviously a completely Nazi concept. And the Jews of Israel, who run Israel, have now said that they are also going to embrace that concept, and yes, it was Nakba. In other words, the Jews shouldn't have survived. This is the official education minister of Israel, Yuli Tamir, who was one of the founders of Peace Now, by the way. A traitor organization of radical left, self-hating Jewish scum. She is Sarat HaChinuch, she is the education minister of Israel. And she officially embraces this policy, where she agrees with the Arabs that they're mourning that they didn't succeed in perpetrating a Holocaust and exterminating the Jews because they think that all non-Muslims, Jews, Christians, all non-Muslims should be exterminated because they're infidels. And she agrees with them. She's the so-called Jewish education minister, she agrees with him, and the education ministry of Israel, of the Jewish state, is going to be using Jewish tax dollars to teach Jewish children and Israeli children about Hanakba, about the catastrophe. These are the people running Israel. Did you ever hear of such traitors, such sick people? This would be like the United States education system announcing that they're going to begin educating American children on how Al-Qaeda was right to attack the Twin Towers. How Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden are right, America should be exterminated, and what happened on 9/11 was just the beginning, and America should be exterminated, because that is how the Muslims believe, that is what the Muslims long for, and every real Muslim wants that. Every real Muslim wants that. Because that's what Islam preaches. Osama bin Laden is a true example of Islam. That is true Islam. If you read the Quran and read the Hadith, you'll see that with your own eyes. But anyway, look at how insane these Jews are in Israel. And you have an Israeli Supreme Court, and you have an Israeli education system, and you have an Israeli government, and you have Israeli generals in the army who all agree with this. That it was an injustice that the Jews survived. It was an injustice that a Jewish state was created in 1948. These self-hating Jews agree with this. These are the people running the state of Israel. They openly say that they want to transform the Jewish state into Medinat Kol Ezracheha, which means a state of all of its citizens. They don't want a Jewish state anymore. They think it was a mistake to have a Jewish state. 99.9% of the Middle East is Muslim. The Jews have 1/10 of 1%, and they think that even that 1/10 of 1% should go to the Muslims. The Muslims should have 100% of everything. Non-Muslims have no rights. This is what these self-hating pieces of garbage think. The Muslims have more than 600 times the land that the Jews have, but that's not enough for the Muslims. The Muslims have 65 Muslim Nazi countries, and these self-hating Jews want to give them the 66th country. They have 65, and the self-hating Jews want to create a 66th country called Palestine, a nation which has no historic validity, has never existed in history. There is no Palestinian, there is no Palestine, there are no Palestinians. It's a complete lie. It's a complete lie. The Arabs and the Muslims themselves never spoke about Palestine or Palestinians until the 1960s. And then they did it strictly for propaganda purposes. You can even read the transcripts of the PLO terrorist conferences in Cairo where they said we have to do this for the sake of world opinion. And the Jews want to give them, in the heartland of biblical Israel, a 66th country. 65 countries are not enough for the Muslims. They should have 66 so they can continue to wage war against all civilized and decent people. They should have 66 countries instead of 65. And the 66th country should be in the heartland of biblical Israel. So the Muslims deserve 66 countries. The Jews deserve 0. The Jews should get nothing. That's the position of the self-hating Jews that run Israel's government and Israel's political establishment. The people of Israel, most of the people of Israel, according to the polls, don't agree with the positions of the Israeli Bolshevik establishment. But there are no parties that speak for them or represent them. There are no leaders that speak for them or represent them. We, Hayamin Hamiti in Israel, or the Jewish Task Force in America, we are the voice for Israel's silent majority that want a Jewish state, that want Jewish education for Jewish children, that want an end to bowing down before Muslim Nazis that want to exterminate the Jewish people. If we take over in Israel, every Jewish child will receive a Jewish education on how Israel is 100% right and the Arab Muslim Nazis are completely wrong. There's no such thing as right and wrong on both sides when one of the parties wants to exterminate the Jewish people just because they're not Muslims. That's right. There's no right and wrong on both sides. Israel is right and the Arab Muslim Nazis are wrong, just as America is right and the Arab Muslim Nazis that want to destroy America are wrong. And we will give real Jewish education and real Jewish pride to Jewish children and set an example for America and the Western world as well. These Arab Muslim Nazis talk about Nakba, disaster, catastrophe. They think they had Nakba in 1948. You give us the power. You bring us to power in Israel, and we'll give them a real Nakba. We'll see you on our forum. Shalom.